So welcome. My purpose tonight is to give you the tools you need to take care of yourself, to understand what I'm doing, what you can do, and how to be a team. I'm really hoping you leave here with this renewed sense of what a miracle your body is and how to take care of the temple you live in. So I want to give you some practical tools and some understandings. We're going to start with why chiropractic exists. So this is a model of two vertebrae, two of the bones in your back, and the pair of nerves that come out between them. What I want you to notice is that that space between them is a variable space. It can change, okay? It doesn't stay the same. So if the bone moves out of place, it can pinch your nerves. Notice this nerve. See how it's smaller? So the nerve actually atrophies or wastes. It doesn't work right if you put pressure on it long enough. The miracle of the body is when you put the bone back in place, take the pressure off the nerve can come back. So it's kind of like stopping you and starting. That's a normal functioning nerve. If you push the bone out of place, it can pinch the nerve and cause problems. Once you put the bone back in place, you get a green light again and the body works well. So it takes my ego out of it. I don't heal anyone, you heal yourselves. And what happens is your body knows what to do once it gets the interference removed from it. So chiropractic began in 1895. This occurred with a man, Harvey Lillard, who was a black man who was a janitor, who had felt something given his upper back, and he'd become very hard of hearing, functionally deaf, for 17 years. Dr. Palmer adjusted his back, probably pretty intensely, and moved it back in place, and he got his hearing back. So we know that not only can you have a backache or a neck ache go away, but you can also have other things happen functionally. So this is called subluxation. It began in 1895. It's been around for over 100 years. Second largest healing profession. I've had the honor of being a chiropractor since 1986. Now, we talked about the nervous system. So what chiropractic's really about is helping the nervous system work. When your nervous system works, you work, as long as the other systems are working too. So the nervous system does this. It controls the body. It controls and coordinates everything you have, every tissue, every organ, every muscle. It's kind of like the electricity. When you turn on the room, walk in the room and turn on the switch, you expect power. And when it happens, you take it for granted. Just like when you pop out of bed in the morning, if it's working, you just get up and go. You do what you want to do. If you come in the room and you turn on the switch and there's no power, you think about it and you look outside and you say, is it the whole neighborhood or is it my house? Is it the lamp or the light bulb? What's happening? So where the problem is tells you where to look for the cause. If it's my house, I'm going to look at the fuses or circuit breaker. If it's the whole neighborhood, we know it's the main power line. If it's the lamp, I'm going to look at the lamp or bulb. So I'm looking, if someone says to me, I've got pain in my leg down to my big toe. It's shooting down my leg. I know that that's where the L5 nerve root comes from, right in here. That nerve root causes problems down the leg. So the pain may be somewhere else from the cause. Chiropractic doesn't just go after the effect, it goes after the cause. If you pinch that nerve, you can cause electrical impulse cessation or decreased, so things don't work right. Now, it's also the most complicated system. It's got 100 billion nerve cells. I don't know about you, but the 100 billion, something like our deficit, I can't quite comprehend how big it is, but each one of those nerve roots also has 500 connections to other nerves. So we've got 100 billion with 500 connections each. That's why I can, shift my weight, digest my lunch, smile at you, and think about the next slide. At the same time, and breathe, because my nervous system is working. So we're going to explore that nervous system together. This is a review of systems. So we're going to look at the central nervous system, your brain and spinal cord. We're going to look at what happens. The body protects it. It protects it with bone, and that bone is called the skull and spinal column. We've already looked at how bones in the back can go out of place. This is George or Georgette, as you wish. I think it's Georgette, by the pelvis. And when you put the bone out of place, it can pinch the nerve. So that's what we've talked about here. That's a subluxation. Sub means partial. Luxation means dislocation, so it's a partial dislocation. So that's a bone out of place pinching a nerve. I'm going to pass Georgette around and you can cause a subluxation and be a chiropractor and adjust it. Here you go, Sarah. Now, we also can have the bones of the skull can go out of place. And if they do, you can have TMJ or jaw problems, headaches. And what happens is putting the bones of the head together gently can help an infant or an adult with those problems. We don't float in space, so we have the rest of the skeleton. And yeah, go ahead and pass Georgette around. We have these incredible systems called joints. A joint is anywhere two bones meet. I had a patient today who said, "Do you work on thumbs?" I said, "Yes, if it's out of place." I found this bone right here out of place, set it in place, and he said, "It doesn't hurt anymore." I work on wrists, elbows, like golfers, okay? Shoulders, very often a baseball player, or a vacationer with too heavy a suitcase, or a child who's pulled along too fast. So the shoulder can go out of place. Also ankles, knees, hips. So if you have a place where a joint is out of place, chiropractic can help. Now, it doesn't work if you tore the ligaments. If you tore the rotator cuff, you might have to repair those. If you tore the meniscus or the ligaments of the knee, you might have to repair them. So if you don't tear it up too much, we have a chance to put it back together. It's pretty exciting. This is called sports medicine and chiropractic, but it's more than that. It's not just athletes, it's all of us. It's just, when you step off the curb wrong and get that ankle, it can help it. Now, here's those nerves we talked about. Where do they go? The nerves in your neck travel down into your arms. They can make your hand numb or tingly, or there can be pain. The nerves in your low back travel down your leg, and that's called the sciatic nerve. It's about as big as your own thumb. The sciatic nerve is very important because it runs the whole leg, the whole lower half. The nerves in the middle go around, all the way around, and sometimes people come in saying, "Gee, I thought I was having a heart attack, but I went to the doctor and then my heart's fine." Then we fix the nerve in the back and the rib, and they go, "Oh, I can breathe, it wasn't my heart." Now, of course, if we have any concerns, we're always going to check for the heart first. But it's pretty exciting when you can get rid of pain that has been making it hard to breathe. Now, this is interesting. The nerves also go to all the organs. Every organ has two sets of nerves. They do balance. One set of nerves makes it do more, one does less. One set of nerves is called, this is the fight or flight syndrome. One set of nerves helps you run away from the tiger or fight it. It helps you deal with that kind of stress. It is the thing that makes your heart go faster. It shuts down digestion because you don't need to digest lunch if you're about to be lunch for the tiger. So it's all about saving your life, okay? The other set does the opposite. It's all about slow down, do digestion, slow the heart. Those two systems are always working in your body. They're called the autonomic or automatic system. They balance you. And when they're working right, they balance you pretty well. When they're not working right, you've got problems. So a pinched nerve that goes to the stomach can cause ulcers because you get a nerve saying more stomach acid, and you can have an ulcer. Or it can say less, and the nerve can be shut down and not digest well. So a pinched nerve in the back can cause a stomach problem. But it's also not that simple. It's a two-way street. If you have, say, a woman has an ovarian cyst, it can refer pain to the back. Or someone has a gallbladder problem, it can refer pain to the upper back. So a pinched nerve in the back can cause an organ problem, and an organ problem can cause back pain, which is why we go to school for 6 years, and we try to figure out what's needed, and we also refer whenever needed. Okay, so the nerves go to the muscles. They do two things. Muscles can get too tight. That's the spasm when someone comes in and says, "Oh, I'm so tight, I'm so tight." That's a spasm, okay? Many of you know about spasms. Now, it can also, if you pinch the nerve long enough, it can make the muscle weak. It's not working right, like foot drop, where someone has a pinched nerve in their low back that's making their foot drop down and not work right. So when you first pinch a nerve, it tends to spasm the muscle it goes to, and longer, it can make it weak. Finally, the nerves go to the skin. And what happens there is that you can have numbness that'll show up when I run that funny little pinwheel over you. Some of you have had that. The pinwheel shows if there's numbness or tingling in that area. Now, this review of systems didn't cover everything. We didn't cover the blood supply or vascular system. We didn't look at endocrine or hormone system. But what it does do, or lymphatic, what it does do is show that the nervous system runs the show, and it goes many places and does many things. So you want your nervous system working. So how can we take care of our nervous system? If bones in your back can go out of place and pinch a nerve, how can we deal with that? How do we find out about that? So this is about normal curves. When you're in the womb, you have a primary curve. It's a C shape. Mom's doing all the work, so you don't need anything else but the primary curve. So the baby's curled up. Okay, now, baby's born, lifts their head and looks around and goes, what is this place? Where'd I come? Where'd I land? That's a neck curve that develops. Now they crawl, low back curves develops. So now you've got a normal curve, looks like this, from the side. And that's stronger to, for instance, the weight of gravity, like a spring would be instead of a straight line. That's a good thing. If, however, you look from behind, you want a straight line. If you don't have one, you've got what's called a scoliosis. Now, scoliosis just means any curvature when seen from behind. It can be mild, moderate, or more severe. It happens most common in girls. Most commonly between the ages of 8 and 12 is when it develops. And the best time to catch it is when it's small, and especially before the growing years of teen years. So what we want to do is catch it small and keep it from progressing. Often we can't reverse it, but we just keep it small. Don't let it get bigger. Tends to run in families. Often if a grandmother has it, a daughter or a granddaughter has it. So it's not a disease, it just means a deviation. And we often don't know what caused it. We do know that we need to adjust, do exercises, and keep it from progressing as much as possible. And again, the best time to catch it is small. So they do scoliosis screenings in schools, but they don't always catch it. So I check all children for free the first time and make sure that we're not developing scoliosis. Now, I apologize to the women in the room. They're always put men on lifting posters. It's not only men who lift, it's men, women, and children. So what we want to look at is if you have something that you need to pick up, it's not always something heavy, but you need to bend your knees. So if this is on the floor, I'm going to bend my knees. Now, if you have something to hold on to, that's good. So you just come on down, pick it up, and come back. Now, the purpose of the bent knees is to keep the curve in your back. So everybody sit up straight. It helps if you uncross your legs. And put your hand in the small of your back, and you'll feel a little dip in there. If you're slumped, you won't feel it, so then you'll have to come back up. So, and that's good, and then relax. So what you want to do is you want to keep that curve in your back when you're lifting to get something. As soon as you round it, you got a problem. Okay, so keep the curve in your back. That's the first rule of lifting. The next are keep the object close to your body if you can and try to avoid twisting. The worst is to bend, lift, and twist, which of course is what most people say when they came in. I just went to get out of the back of the closet. I just reached into the back of the car. And that's when there's a problem. Now, how to get out of bed or off the table here. What you want to do is you want to roll on your side and get up. They make it 5 steps. I make it 2. Roll on your side and push off. Best way to get up. When in doubt about hot and cold, use ice. Not sure? Use ice. New injury, ice. Flare-up, ice. So if you're not sure and you can't reach me, use ice. If it's calmed down and now it's tight but not swollen, heat is safe and moist heat's the best. Now, I'd like your participation in the next part. What does good health mean to you? When you think of good health, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Good health.
Free from pain.
Free from pain is good. Thank you. What else? Free from pain. Flexibility. Okay. So good health is free from pain, flexibility. Immune system, I like it. You know, my primary definition is I get to do what I want. I'm comfortable and energetic and able to do the things that call me. My family and my life, my creativity and my healing, my work. If I can't, then my health is getting in the way of what I want. So that's my short definition. Now, this is the medical dictionary definition. They had too long to think about it, and they got wordy. It's a condition in which all functions of body and mind are active. It's also a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease, infirmity, or pain. So, to be fair, most of us grew up with a medical model, like you said, that is about, I'm healthy if I'm free from pain. That's the first step, but it goes further. So if I'm free from pain and I have the vitality, energy, and wholeness, wellness in every system that I need, my immune system's working, I'm flexible, I'm able to. So what we want is, we want the body working well enough to do what we want to do. What I ask you to set your sights on is not only being out of pain, which is the first step and important, but that full sense of energy, flexibility, vitality you need to do your life. So the nervous system comes to every cell, and it's important to recognize that pain's a symptom, but not necessarily the cause. You can mask the symptom, but not have dealt with the cause, in which case you're going to get a bigger pain and need a bigger drug. And I'm not anti-drug. There's a time, for instance, that antibiotics can do wonders. You know, my grandmother spent a year in the hospital with rheumatic fever, and she never would have if she'd had the medications that we have now. So there's a place and time where that deals with the cause. But you also want to look at why did she have rheumatic fever when not someone next to her didn't? How do you bolster the immune system? So chiropractic's about make sure the nervous system works, which also helps the immune system. But most of all, deal with the cause, not just the effect. Now, again, and I'm not anti-pain meds, this is usually ibuprofen these days, but that's fine as long as you know you're dealing with the cause. So we're going to switch gears for a moment here to arthritis. People often ask me, well, can you help me? I have arthritis. Well, you can't help me. I have arthritis is another statement. The truth is that, and they forgot to talk English here, this is bone out of place, wearing out of the low back. The truth is that I deal with and help people in every stage. Now, this is clearly a lot longer and later than here. There's two parts to, and there's many kinds of arthritis. We're going to talk about degenerative arthritis or osteoarthritis because it's the most common type. There are others like rheumatoid arthritis. We're not discussing those right now. We're talking about wearing out. So number one, you can wear out, and that happens naturally. You're going to have some by the age of 65. We're all going to get some wear and tear. And we can't stop normal wear and tear. But then you can have degenerative arthritis that is accelerated or premature or too early. And that's because at this point, things have worn down because they're out of place. So this is normal wear and tear, and this is premature wear and tear. It's too fast, okay? Normal, premature. So we can't stop normal, but we want to stop premature. That means things should be in place so they won't wear out faster. Now, if someone is at the point where an arthritis means decreased joint space and bone spur formation, if that happens, and again, you don't have to worry about that when you're this age, but as we go along, and I'm starting to think, okay, I'll be 50 next year, how am I doing here? So degeneration is not enough space between the discs and bone spur. I can still work with people in this stage, but it's harder, longer, tougher, so we'd rather catch it earlier. And we can work with normal wear and tear too. We can't give back what's already gone. We can try to keep it from progressing prematurely further. Sometimes I have to set my sights differently. Like Pierre came in, and again, if I use a name, I've had permission from he and his family. He's now passed on, but he was 92. He had 3 compression fractures that were old, bone on bone at the bottom too, and he was in such bad shape I didn't want to touch him. But he said, "No one, they helped me. You helped me. You helped my daughter. You helped me." We tried, and we found 50% relief through gentle chiropractic, very gentle, and gentle massage. Now that's not very good in my book normally. 50% is I want 100, I want 90, I want that. But for him, he said, I have half the pain. This is good. And for the last 2 years of his life, he had half the pain. So that was a different set of expectations, but for him it was good. And his daughter came and thanked me after he passed. So what I know is catch it early, but deal with it wherever you are. Same thing in the neck briefly, normal, injury. Over time, and we're not talking months, but years, you can have more arthritis because it's been out of place. And it literally can get to bone on bone. But that didn't happen overnight. It did not happen overnight. So this is what we're looking at, is try to prevent premature wear and tear by the things that you need to do, adjustment and exercise. Okay. Now people ask me about disc. What is a disc problem? This is a normal disc, and this is a bulging disc. Usually they bulge backwards and it pinches the nerve. So if you have a pinched nerve from a disc, it's longer, tougher, harder, but it's possible, okay? It's possible to help. So pinched nerve from a disc, we can work with, but it might take 6 months or a year as opposed to weeks to months. If it ruptures, and I will say this, if these fibers break and the jelly center comes out and floats around, I can't fix that because I can't get hold of it. A bulging disc, we have a chance to pump gently in place with the table that moves, this $5,000 table that does such a nice job. We can pump it back in, but if it ruptures, we don't have that chance. So we pray it's a bone out of place first if there's going to be a problem, next to bulging disc, and hope it's not a ruptured disc. And the way to tell is an MRI. That's another story, but MRI helps. Okay, so we're getting towards the end. I want to explain a couple of things. We want you to know that we want to put bones back in place. Restore normal nerve function, let the body heal itself. Again, remember, I don't heal you, you heal yourselves. I just remove interference. So we ask that you follow through in your care, get your family and friends in. And what I especially, my 2 soapboxes are kids, so thank you for bringing your daughter. And that's because kids don't get to choose on their own, and they can heal so quickly, and it's so important. So number 1, all children should be checked for free the first time to make sure we know what's going on. And then checked somewhere about, once you get through a problem, somewhere between 3 and 6 months for kids usually. Grown-ups, it's 2 weeks to 6 months. Kids, it's 1 month to 6 months. And then the second group is friends who have given up. If you have given up and you think, oh, I just have to learn to live with it, and then they come to chiropractic and get well, they didn't try that first. They didn't see what they could do. And sometimes if I can't help them, acupuncture or a different kind of exercise or homeopathy, we don't want to give up if there's a chance to help. So we always look for what will work. So the phases of care, again, this shows 6. I really like 3. Pain relief, which is number 1, what most people want when they come through these doors. When do I feel better? And then number 2 is correction. When am I better? And number 3, which we're going to end on tonight, is staying better. So it's feeling better, getting better, and staying better. Pain relief, correction, maintenance. So once you've regained your maximum possible health, you want to maintain and prevent future problems. How do you do that? This is how you do it. Our last slide. When you have gotten through the pain relief, correction, and you're as good as you get, and again, like Philippe, that may not be 100%, but it will be as good as you can get. As good as we can get you, as good as anyone else we can refer you to can get you. And again, I told you don't give up, but there is a time, like I have a patient who has MS who says, okay, I have done every herb known to mankind. I've done everything I know how to do, so I'm going to try to maintain what I've got. It's a difficult situation, but basically what we want is get as good as you get with all the means possible and then maintain it. And let's hope it's 100%. Like yours, 100%. That's what we're going for. So this is what happens once you're 100%. You do most of it. So I want to show you. This is my part. This is your part. Mine, yours. Little, big. Okay? You're with you 24 hours a day. So my part is a balanced spine, like a checkup, an adjustment, somewhere around once a month. That can vary again from between 2 weeks and 6 months. But around once a month you get a checkup. The rest of the time, 24 hours a day, you're with you. So what do? You want to exercise, have good posture, eat well, sleep well, and think well. Now, that sounds so simple, but we're going to talk about what does it mean. And I know that, I want to be a good role model to you, so I look at, I happen to be a chocoholic. I just love chocolate. So eating well is good, and I could spend a whole hour on it, but I'm spending about 2 minutes. You want to go for whole foods. You can tell where they came from in moderation, to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. My problem is when I'm eating not for hunger, but for comfort. So that's one of the things that I have, is that I like chocolate. My grandma said, I love you, here's a chocolate milkshake. I love you, here's an ice cream. I love you, here's a candy bar. So I got love and sweets go together. So that's I don't like alcohol, drugs, coffee, cigarettes. So for me, it keeps me humble to love chocolate. But what I've learned is moderation. It's okay if I'm being moderate. And also to find ways to comfort myself. If I have a sadness, like after my mother died, I wanted food. And what I found was it was better to call a friend, write in a journal, go walk in nature. So look and see what's going on. Also, it's a good place to talk about addictions. I mentioned chocolate for me. If there's anything that is really hard for you, coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, just let me know and let's look at the resources available for that. I'm going to end with exercise. Good posture. You heard your parents say sit up straight. You tell your daughter sit up straight. But the challenge is when you're at a place you can't sit up straight. So number 1 is to know that when you're in place it's easier to have that lift, that open. I've had 4 people today say after they were adjusted, I feel taller. So when you're in place, it's easier to be in posture. Now, good posture is not rigid. It's not military spine. It's not that stiff thing. It's basically relax, loose, shoulders pull back, head comes up, and you feel like you can take up the space you were born to. Okay? Although what someone said, bigger space in America than in China, but take up the space you were born to. That really means your body feels free. Now, sometimes we have poor posture because it hurts. Sometimes we have it because we're protecting our hearts. So we want to look at how do we feel safe and open and loose enough to stand up and take our place in the world. Sleep, you want to allow yourself enough of it. Most people, that's about 7 or 8 hours. Children and teens need more. Elders often need less or get less. So you want to look at yourself. If you know that if you fall asleep naturally, wake up naturally, you sleep 8 to 9 hours, that's your normal. Okay. If you know that you wake up after 6 hours every time, well, that might work, and you also might need a nap. So everybody's different. It doesn't work to sleep, 3 or 4 hours unless you're a monk who meditates, and that's really restful too. So enough sleep. And I don't like this one. It says no one gets well unless they want to. Everyone wants to. It's just that if you believe you can't, it's hard. If you see yourself as well, then you tend to step into that. And it shouldn't be used as to beat anybody up, including ourselves. So you be as well as your body will let you. See it. And sometimes the wellness is in the spirit more than the body, because that's what you can get. But you find your place where you know you're whole no matter what. That's the place I see and respect, even in the people who are struggling. So we've looked at posture, nutrition, sleep, and mental focus. And that's really the majority of it. Exercise is the piece we're going to end on, because it's probably the piece that has the most bad press. It's the piece that we have most control over on a daily basis, that we don't do as much as we'd like, if you're like the majority. What I've experienced is that exercise what we know is it has 3 kinds: stretching, strengthening, and aerobic. What I'm going to cover tonight is some advice on it and some specifics on stretching and strengthening. We're not going to do aerobics here tonight. And aerobics doesn't mean a class. It doesn't mean it has to have fast music. It means you get your heart rate up, you sweat a little, you're moving your blood system in a way that's safe for your body to do. It might be in the water, it might be walking, it might be running, it might be dancing, it might be playing on the playground. So what we want to do is we want to have movement, minimum of 3 times a week, 20 minutes at a time, about an hour, and that's kind of a minimum, an hour a week that gets your heart rate moving, if it's safe for you to do so. Okay. Then stretching and strengthening, about 20 minutes a day is good. So that's what we're looking at, 15 if you can't do that. I'm going to give you some specifics on the neck, mid-back, and low back. A couple more things about exercise. My experience is I will do what I like. I will do what I love much longer than I'll do what I don't like. So when I go to the gym, I find weights boring. I know some people love them, and forgive me if they're your thing, but it's not something I'm highly motivated about. But I love to swim. I feel like I'm in my medium, and I meditate when I'm swimming. I just feel good. I love to dance. I love to kayak. I love to bike. So those are things that I will do because I like them. So it's good to try to find movement you like that works for your body, and do that. I like yoga. I have trouble with someone yelling, move faster, that kind of, it doesn't work for me long term. But everybody's different, so maybe it works for you. So finding something that works for you is good. So what we're going to end on is neck stretches, mid-back and low back. So watch me. I'll give you handouts, but first just watch. You're going to go forward and back, and try this if your neck feels comfortable. Just forward and back. Okay? And then turn to one side and turn to the other. So pretty simple. And then side to side, you're going to bring your ear towards your shoulder and your ear towards your shoulder. Now, if you think you've gone, I tend to use my breath, so I think of exhale to the stretch, inhale to the center. If I think I've gone as far as I can, I'll sometimes take a breath in right there and exhale further. So you can see that if you use your breath, you can get a little more of a stretch. It shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't be something that your body doesn't like to do, although it may be a little bit of a stretch. So again, here, breathe in and exhale into it. And you'll find just a little more stretch. So that's the neck. Everything else your neck does is a combination of those motions. So it's forward, back, side, side, turn, turn. And again, I'll give you a handout on that. How many to do? Do them once a day. 5 of each, increase to 20. We'll write this down. Once a day, 5 of each, increase to 20 in 2 weeks. So you add 1 a day. So the first day I'm going to stretch 5 of each direction, not this fast. And then I'm going to add 1 till I'm up to 20. Okay, mid-back. Again, we'll get the handouts. Mid-back is you're going to hug and arch. You're hugging yourself. Arching is like your elbows come together like a baby bird learning to fly. Hug and arch. Okay, try it. Hug yourself and arch. And then side to side, you can just drop an arm down the leg. You can also put a hand over. If you can't get up, you do it in your chair. So side to side. And finally, rotation. Now this is tricky because you've got a rib cage in the way. So you're going to rotate at a waist level and then come up a few inches and rotate both ways and up and both ways until you go about to shoulder height. So you start at waist level and you come up to shoulder level. Okay? So you're going to do that about 5 times, both ways, up, both ways, 4 or 5, depending on how big your torso is. What that does is get the stretch. You know, that place you just feel like you can't stretch, that's a good place to get. All right. So the neck and the mid-back can be done together mostly. So when you hug yourself, you stretch. When you arch, bring your head back. Side, side, and turn, and turn. I actually like to take the rotation separately though, because when I turn my body, I can't get as much stretch on my neck. So that's the neck and the mid-back. We're going to cover low back and we'll be done. Low back is very important in our culture because it either is overworked or underworked in most cases. Too much sitting is our main issue. So the more you can get up and park your car a little farther away, walk in, get up during your work day, try to move around, or if you're retired, having that little walk in between and walk more steps in the house, because we sit too much. And there's great things to do sitting. I have a lot of sitting activities I like, but it's a problem. Okay. So low back, you're going to lay on your bed once a day, and you're going to do 10 things, actually 9 things. Okay. So if this is my bed, you're going to flatten. Your knees are bent. You're going to flatten and arch. Flatten and arch. Then you're going to bring one knee to the chest, and you're going to stretch it up towards your chest as far as you comfortably can. And then if I could do this, it would be another class called levitation, but 2 knees to the chest and stretch. So that's 3 of them. Pelvic tilt, 1 knee, 2 knees. Almost everyone can do that, even if your back is still in a crisis. If you're new in class, that's an important thing to do, those 3. Okay? I'm going to give you a handout, but just briefly, you're going to, also from here, you're going to bring your knee up and stretch it out, and you're going to try bicycles, where you do 1 knee and then both bicycling in the air. Straight leg raise, you lift your leg, and you bring it down. Lift it and bring it down. Again, I'm laying in my bed. Okay. Now, quarter sit-ups, you'll hear a lot about them. You basically want to come off the ground. If this is my bed, I'm going to come up about 25 to 30 degrees. So I've got my knees bent. I'm coming up. And you can tell, you know when you've contracted your abs because they get harder. And if they're weak, you start to shake if you hold it there a while. So I can do them there. I also like to do them on an exercise ball, which is another class. So bringing yourself into the position where your abs are harder, and then coming down again and working them. Again, the same number of all of these, and the number is 5, increased to 20 in 2 weeks. Same thing. Now, we've covered a lot of ground. What I want you to leave here with is, this is a miracle. It's amazing how well this works. There's a lot of things that could go on, and we have a precious thing called a body. If you take care of it, if you do the things that work for you, give it enough sleep, enough food, the mental attitude that works for you, the right posture, a good adjustment, good exercise, you get to have it longer, working more functionally for a greater part of your life. What I love about being a chiropractor is I get to be part of your healthcare team, and I love doing this. And thank you for coming. Thank you, honey.